Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to be starting a new theme this week, as we do on Mondays, and this one is a bit of bittersweet. These five songs we're going to check out are from bands that don't exist anymore. They broke up or just stopped performing music together, whatever. We're going to start off with the band Woods of Ypres. The track we're looking at is I Was Buried in Mount Pleasant Cemetery. Let's dive into this and see what Woods of Ypres are bringing to the table today. Nice stop there. Interesting bit of energy. There's a panning kind of sound going on. Yep, so two chords jumping back and forth. Bit of tension and release. Yeah, there's that stop I was talking about in the piano line. Brought to full power with the bands.
Disappear was the only way I could find relief. When I was buried,
very interesting use of a tom roll to bring that up.
Mount Pleasant Cemetery, alone and unceremoniously buried. Cemetery, when life was taken so suddenly. First I paid my respects to Glenn Gould, and then I visited the grave of Alexander Muir, next to Eaton's tomb.
I like how the drums are keeping things varied. Yeah, so we got a tempo shift down here. Alright, we got a 4-bar phrase. 3 bars worth, always returning to a higher chord. Interesting. Such a quick moment. Triumphant music. Huh. I don't know why this ending. That's probably the wrong response for the end of this song, but first, um, it just took a sharp left turn when I wasn't expecting it to. Um, I thought I had a fairly firm grasp on what they were aiming for, what they were going for, and what they were accomplishing, and those last 2 minutes completely threw me for a loop. Totally changed the pace, the vibe of the song, but then returned back to what felt like the same lyrics we had in the chorus last time, but are happy, positive, triumphant for sure. Tons of energy behind it. And I'm trying to pair it with the few lyrics I picked up. I don't know. Let's go by this step by step, hit the lyrics, and see if it can make more sense on the other side of this. A majority of the song is melancholic, I think would be an understatement. It's almost comedic just how far into the stereotypicalness of the, the sadness is. I don't know if that was done intentionally or if they just really wanted to lean into it in an attempt to make it more serious. But for whatever reason, I wish I could explain this. Music is my forte, not whatever's happening in my brain right now, whatever the psychology is in my experience here, I found the Melancholy to be like borderline parody, done to such an extreme that it was campy almost. I'm sure that's not the way they intended, and I'm sure there's going to be people in the comments saying, no, this is a sad song. And yeah, I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's experience or their authorial intent. That's just not how I read it. It feels satirical at times. Just a little dripping too much with melodrama. A musical melodrama is what this feels like to me. But I understand what they're going for. We start off with a piano line that bounces between two chords, very sad, very melancholic. We bring in these super heavy guitars. It's a slower riff. It really adds to the weight and power of this sadness. Paired with that, we bring in the vocals. And this dude just has a gorgeous, gorgeous voice. It's got this nice round warmth to it. He feels very comfortable in this range, but it's also very powerful. He doesn't have to really put a lot of emphasis to get a lot of strength in it. To me, it's a very comfortable part of his range, and he absolutely leans into it, and it adds to sort of the weight and dreariness. This song could have been done with higher ranged vocals, but I don't think the punchiness of the weights would have come through. It still would have been melancholic, but it wouldn't have had the weight that it does. Um, and when the guitars come in, they are playing the exact same chords that our piano is playing, but a vastly simplified version of the piano lick. They tend to hold out a note while the piano has a moving melody line, but they change together and they both have that rising idea together. The rising idea at the end of the phrase. This section in particular, our A section, goes on for quite some time. It goes through our verses, goes through our choruses, and there really isn't much variation going on as far as the melody, both from our vocals and from the riff that our guitar and piano are playing. What does change in this, which I thought was really neat, was the drums. And I pointed this out, but I don't think I pointed out any specific element of it. I don't know exactly when these different variations came in. There was one time, I think it was their second or third time through this section. And the section I'm looking at 4 repetitions of this 4 bar phrase, of this 2 chord pattern. The drums introduced these 2/8 notes in between a lot of the pauses. So we would get like 2 tom hits and then 2 lower tom hits and then 2 snare hits and then 2 bass hits in between the note changes. And it gave a little bit of this forward momentum. But the next time we went through this section, it was pretty much just straight quarter notes on downbeats. And then the last time we came through it, before we went into our bridge, which we'll get into in a second, we had double bass kicks. Or, sorry, not double. They might have been double bass kicks. I don't know. But they were like eighth notes on the bass kicks, just constant. Really driving the energy on it. And we even saw some of this variation in that rising progression that leads us back into the rest chord, not the tension chord. The drums had different fills to do under this rise. And that was also a neat way to change things up. So while there wasn't a lot of change going on in the musical aspect, the rhythmic aspect, the percussion did have variation consistently from start to finish on this A section. Now, after this A section, we introduce Another piano lick. Different one this time, but the same effect. Slow, somber, melancholic. The guitars don't continue it though. When the guitars come in, we have a massive tempo shift down. We probably drop a good 30 BPMs, and the piano's gone at this moment, I think. I can't remember. But it's just holding out these really long chords. And I don't remember what happened after this. I can't remember if there was another section or not, but if there was, it would have been doing the same thing, just another somber, melancholic element. There might have been some words here in the bridge. What is important, though, is that after the second or possibly third melancholic section, we move into triumph. This is where the song takes a massive tonal shift. This was about 4.5, 5 minutes into the track. It is the beginning of our guitar solo section. The guitars come in with a much faster up-tempo beat. We increase quite a bit on our BPM, probably working closer to 80 or 90 BPM, maybe even 100 at this point. And we have this driving momentum. The guitars come in with this catchy riff, and then the guitar on the stage left, well, stage right, I guess, our left, is playing a solo, and is just powerful. It's triumphant. It's bright. It's uplifting. It's not only just the speed, but we've had a key change as well. And you can hear it in the pattern, which borrows heavily from the beginning, where we're jumping back and forth between two chords. Actually, I think we only have one chord here. But at the end of our phrase, we have this rising idea, and each note in the rise is more and more powerful, has more victorious element to it. It's almost reaches a point of angelicness. We utilize this energy from this section, the key direction, the atmosphere direction, and we come back to our chorus with this drive and energy and a new vocal line. We have a growl underneath our vocal. This is that big tonal shift I don't get. This felt like a an elegy, a song for the dead. It's somber, it's melancholic, it's slow, it's downbeat. Um, it's extremely emotive. And the halfway point, it becomes victorious, triumphant almost. It has, yeah, victory, I think, is the vibe that I get specifically from that rising progression that leads us back to the beginning of the lick. And the vocals are more powerful than ever. They're growls now. That takes energy. That takes strength. That's not a low effort, comfortable range kind of thing. You have to put effort into creating these vocals. There is drive in our drums. Our guitars are pushing forward with this energetic riff. What happened? I tried to get some hints from the music video and I got none. The little bit of a story I got was that the woman in the story possibly killed someone. Maybe there was like a quick flash of her hitting someone with like a branch or something. And then the singer was in the water, like she threw the body in the water possibly. But then that narrative visually stopped being represented in the music video, and it was just the band in the various places playing triumphantly. um, I don't know. I will say this though, aside from my initial reaction of thinking they overdid the dreariness in the first half, they nailed both of these vibes really well. There is no confusion or muddiness in the emotions they're trying to portray in these two sections. They absolutely know what kind of chord progressions. Well, they used two chord progressions, but it's still a progression, right? You have resolve and tension, right? That's a progression. Um, they know exactly how to achieve these two sounds utilizing chords, but not only just that, but also melody. Melody is very important for ascribing an emotion to a chord. A chord can kind of direct to a an emotion, but the melody is really going to cement it. And they do a fantastic job at giving us both of those. The victorious, positive, uplifting stuff and the somber, sorrow, melancholic stuff. I just I don't understand how they go together. And there was absolutely no foreshadowing of the turn at the end of this track, which really caught me off guard, which probably didn't help. Which is why it felt a bit I don't want to say it was comedic. It gave me a chuckle, but I don't want to say the ending was funny, if that makes sense. You ever laughed at something that wasn't funny but was even comical, I think gives the wrong connotation. It was just totally unexpected. It caught me so off guard, I didn't know how to process it. And it probably wasn't, it didn't help. That's what I'm looking for. It didn't help that I already found the first half to be a bit overdone on the satirical side. So, yeah, I have a weird read on this track. I think a second listen, I would be a lot more ready for it. And I don't think I would laugh as often. Interesting track. I'm gonna hit some lyrics right here. I want to see what's going on, and maybe it'll all make sense then. Okay, so it is the story of a murder. Our main character was buried in Mount Pleasant Cemetery, as the title suggests, but what I missed was alone and unceremoniously, which I picked up in the music video. It says when life was taken from me. So he wasn't buried with ceremony. He wasn't buried next to family or friends or anything like that. Um, he was, as the music video suggests, murdered and hidden. Right? The video suggested tossed in a river, but it really could be any type of hidden. I don't think the music, I don't think the lyrics speak specifically. Um, Interestingly, says the sun came down hot and hard. I could never sleep. To disappear was the only way I could find relief. Um, which I think is interesting because as a, a dead body, a corpse, there's no cognitive function going on. There's no need to sleep. But I think it's the idea of finding rest, eternal rest, right? Having your spirit still tied to this world as you weren't buried ceremoniously. I don't know if they're specifically aiming for that sort of religious or supernatural angle, but I understand where they're coming from with the idea of not being able to sleep, and I think it's a really nice way to go about writing that. Basically, they couldn't find peace. Um, Interestingly, they said they went and did a bunch of stuff. I assume that these are people who have passed. It says, I paid my respects to Glenn Gould. I visited the grave of Alexander Muir next to Eaton's tomb, and I looked for Joseph Mulgrew. Interestingly, says my body never recovered and I was never found. This was I think, the slowest point of the song. It says until now, and I think this is where we start kicking it up into overdrive. we get some more triumphant music going on. And the chorus changes. Instead of buried alone and unceremoniously, it says buried between the mountains and trees in Mount Pleasant Cemetery. At the heart of the city, amongst the statues and fountains, new life could begin where the old path I ran came to an end. So I think that's what it's about. Finding that peace as a wandering spirit because your body has been properly buried after it has been found after murder, right? Interesting topic. And the music works for it, for the most part. I'm still not 100% sold on the opening. Like I said, maybe a second listen, it's not going to be as extra as it is now that I know what they're doing. But the ending, I think, does land. Now that I know what the lyrics are about, I think everything does kind of fit together there. So, those are my thoughts on I Was Buried in Mount Pleasant Cemetery by Woods of Ypres. This is where y'all come in. What'd you think of it? Anything you enjoy? Anything you'd like to add on to what I said? Correct me on? Let me know down in the comments. Above the comment section is a description box, and in there is a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here, has links for everything related to the channel. You can find the music I've made, you can find a link to the Discord community, you can find multiple ways to support the channel, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three. We have a special selection today as well. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.